So Marvel Comics isn't paying its artists. That's my takeaway from this thread by Greg Capullo on X yesterday. He said his longtime inker is that Jonathan Glapian, is that how to pronounce his last name, is not getting paid. He is not getting paid by Marvel. And where there's smoke, there's usually fire. And when a comic book publisher is in trouble or they're being told to rein in expenses, it's never a good sign. It's usually the first people that get thrown out of the bus are the freelancers because they're not full-time employees. A lot of them have NDAs, gag orders. They can't talk about it. He's talking about it, but he is a higher profile creator, right? So I am thinking that this is all related to the round of layoffs that they had at Marvel Comics a couple of months ago. Disney is cleaning house. There seems to be more and more indication, in my opinion, that they will probably outsource more and more of their comics until most of it's outsourced, if not all of it. We'll talk about John Byrne and his Elsewhen comic coming out, which I'm actually looking forward to. I read it online when he had online. It was basically an X-Men fan comic, but it was an unofficial continuation of X-Men as he saw it during his time on the book when it was arguably at its highest point, right? Byrne and Claremont. And Marvel's not publishing that. It's being outsourced to Abrams Comic Arts, which is a very weird decision. And a lot more Marvel stuff is being outsourced elsewhere, elsewhen. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. If you want to support the channel and you'd like to get more content, go out to more.clownfishtv.com. That's more.clownfishtv.com for more Clownfish TV. You will not get anywhere else. And also, if you'd like to listen to the audio version of Clownfish TV, check out our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts, Amazon Music. We are there. Just look for Clownfish TV podcast. So let's walk it back a little bit. This was in April. Disney laid off a bunch of people at Marvel Comics, including Dan Buckley, their publisher. And it looked like there were some major changes going on at the House of M. The House of Mickey, I guess, is the House of Mickey now. And now we've got reports that creators aren't being paid. And they've let their sales guy go. They let their publisher go. Tom Brevoort needs to go. Honestly, that's my opinion. But I think they'll probably all be gone before it's all said and done. So this is Greg Capullo, who is a legendary comic book creator, a modern legend, working on Spawn, Batman, so many other books. He said, my longtime friend and inker, Jonathan Glapian, despite my intervention, cannot get paid for work rendered months ago from one of the big two. Hint, it ain't DC. It's just outrageous, shameful, totally unacceptable. And I saw people posting DC having a very different attitude toward comic book creators, that Scott Snyder was very appreciative of DC and the people he worked with. And I'm like, yeah, just wait for the other shoe to drop. The other shoe is going to be the Ellisons. When the Ellisons buy Warner Brothers, they don't give a shit. They care about saving money. That's all they care about. I'm just saying, I think it's going to change things over there, but I could be wrong. So let's see what some of the replies are here. Clint says that this unpaid work has been published. It opens the grounds for suing for partial rights to the characters he's worked on. I don't know about that. Basically, if a publisher has you work on their characters and they publish it without paying you, you can sue for partial rights. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I'm not saying it's true or untrue. I don't know. Don Figueroa, who knows everything about not getting paid because he worked for Dreamwave for years and didn't get paid. He said, yeah, I've been there. Ain't that right, Pat Lee? It's been, 20 years and you haven't paid me and others? Jim Whitehead says that there's a lawsuit Marvel might settle to prevent Discovery from going behind the NDAs. The problem is lawsuits are expensive. Nerd Wonder says, what makes me sad is creatives that built the company. They take those characters, they turn those characters into who they are, and made the company a titan, and they pull this junk. Welcome to comics. I mean, I'm not trying to be dismissive or anything, but this story goes back to the beginning of comics. It goes all the way back to DC and Superman and Schuster and Siegel. It's been going on for ages. Comics will break your heart, kids, but it's not a good sign. When you've got a company like Marvel that's owned by Disney, that's subsidized, let's be real, subsidized by Disney, just like Xbox was subsidized by Microsoft. Marvel Comics is subsidized by Disney and their movie making and their merchandising machine. For them to stop paying, that's a huge red flag to me. Anytime a publisher stops paying, it's a red flag. I know this happened to me with IDW, and I had to wait. I think I had to wait like 6 or 8 months, and that was with an agent. I had to wait like 6 or 8 months to get paid for some covers I did for them. And that was my first indication that maybe this company wasn't in a very good position financially. And that was 10 years ago. And it was all downhill after that. Because basically they pay who they have to pay first. They pay what they have to pay first. And then, if there's anything left over, the freelancers get it, right? And honestly, they're probably looking out like, this guy's an inker. Do we need to make him happy? We're probably going to replace inkers with AI pretty soon. And that's, again, I'm not attacking his work. I'm not attacking inkers. There are some phenomenally talented inkers. I'm just saying, Disney being a corporation, I could totally see them being like, how much do we pay inkers? And couldn't we just run the pencils through an AI filter and get effectively the same result? And that people are like, no, Kneon, you're wrong. It's not going to be the same. I'm not saying it's going to be as good. I'm saying it's going to be good enough for consumers, right? Especially if most of the consumers we have in the comic book industry today aren't actually reading the comic books. They're just buying the covers. And so whatever's in the interior just doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, that's probably what they're looking at. I mean, I'm going to be honest. That's probably what they're looking at. They're like, why are we shelling out like $1,000 a page in creative between the penciler and the inker and whatever, when we can just run it through a filter and the people aren't going to give a shit? Yeah, I don't know. That's probably what, again, these are bean counting decisions. Graham Nolan, legendary comic creator himself, says shameful business practices from a multi-billion-dollar corporation make this right. Marvel. There we go. Jack Kirby, famous line, kid comics will break your heart. Mikey says Marvel is absolutely horrible on all fronts when it comes to respecting artists. I'm sure Rob Liefeld will have a lot to say about this. You'd think after decades of people speaking out, their practices would change, but they're just vultures to some artists. They are part of the Disney machine. And the one thing I will tell you, being someone who has plugged into the Disney machine for a number of years, Disney will do things as cheaply as possible, especially when it comes to talent. It doesn't mean they're terrible to work with or work for necessarily, but they will pay you the least amount of money possible, unless you're like an A-list star or something like that. And that's how they maximize profit, right? And so to me, this feels like something is going to break. Something's going to give over at Marvel, because when they stop paying people, and this is one guy that came out and said he hasn't been paid. How many other people are not being paid? And are they speaking out, or do they feel like they can speak out because they don't have a Greg Capullo to, cheer them on, to sit in their corner, right? So I'm thinking, again, where there's smoke, there's fire. So if he's not being paid, I'm sure there are many others that are not being paid. And this, again, it's happened to me a couple times. It wasn't just IDW. It was also Gemstone. I remember Gemstone stopped paying people. And I was the only one at the time, I think, that said something about it. And then it turned out that like none of us were getting paid. It's like, but everybody else was so afraid to say anything. And that's how comics continues to operate the way that it does. Is, they keep some of the people happy. The people at the top, they're going to keep them happy. The Scott Snyders will keep them happy. But the guy working on the licensed Scooby-Doo book or whatever, screw that guy. If we don't pay him this month, whatever. It's his problem. He's the one that chose to get in the comics, right? That's kind of how they look at it. I'm not even kidding. That's how they look at it. So it's coming from Bleeding Cool. Marvel Comics hasn't paid Jonathan Glapion down to Disney layoffs. I think that's what it's about. Greg Capullo posted on social media that he hadn't been paid. He said, despite turning in work before the deadlines, given 5 covers inked in the middle of drawing and inking my own book Unreal, and then no reply from my email. Well, probably the person that cuts the checks probably got laid off. Marvel didn't respond to the emails I sent yesterday or today either. This has come from Bleeding Cool. And the thing is, he's not alone. This is not some kind of deliberate oversight, but Disney's payment systems are famously antiquated. Yeah, unless you have to pay them, right? It's antiquated when they have to pay you. But when you have to pay them, it's a totally different thing. It's hardly a new observation, but they were working okay, even if they were rather labor intensive. People would call up, checks would be cashed, staff would go out of their way to make sure that whatever the system said, tell their employees, tell freelancers or vendors would get paid. So what happened? Well, you may recall that Disney just fired a whole ton of people, including at Marvel, across the company at all levels, from the board to the executives to the people doing administration, and mostly the people doing administration, it seems. As a result, people aren't getting paid, and trying to get paid is now an uphill struggle for some. Literally, they're not paying enough people to pay other people. That could be part of it, or it could be deliberate. That's a very nice thought, like, oh, golly, it just slipped through the system. No, these companies, when the chips are down, especially when they're evaluating the different divisions, they will put a freeze on expenses, and contractors, it's like paying the electric bill, right? Some companies, seriously, they will not pay the electric bill until they get a shut-off notice, and they're more than capable of paying the electric bill. They just wait till the last possible minute to pay it because they want to keep that revenue on the books. They want to keep it in the bank. I think it could be the same with the employees there. They could be possibly not paying them. Because remember, he said it's been, what, like 5 months, several months? He said 5 covers. He didn't say how long. But it's possible that this whole thing went down before these people got fired, and they were basically putting a freeze on payments to contractors. I worked at a company one time. We did that, and it freaking sucked because I had to be the guy. I was the marketing guy, and I had to be the guy that had to try to patch things like, hey, yeah, I know we haven't paid anybody in like 3 or 4 months. And the company was okay. It was doing okay, but they wanted it to look better on paper because they were thinking about taking out like some big loan or something. So they needed to look like they had more money in the bank than they technically really did. The only reason they had as much money in the bank is because they stopped paying their bills for like 3 months. It was crazy. The company got sold, by the way. But yeah, I mean, this kind of stuff happens all the time, especially in comics. I said the shoes have very suddenly started to drop off the Disney millipede, and you'll excuse the metaphor. There are many more shoes to drop, I'm sure. This is, by the way, what always happens with layoffs and the kind of things that corporations never consider when making their decisions. And then someone like Greg Capullo, immensely respected within the comics industry, X-Force, Spawn, Batman, or co-creator of Haunt with Robert Kirkman. He's one of the biggest artists and writers around in talent, sales impact, and bicep width. Oh yeah, I guess he works out. So yeah, to have him come out and say, hey, why aren't you paying your people is not good. Another indication that I think Marvel is going to be changing things up substantially, and this is also coming from Blaine Cole, is John Byrne's Elsewhen is coming out from Abrams Comic Arts. Again, a very weird decision. Now, he's talking about how he's not like Alan Moore. He'll definitely go back to the well if he gets paid. The Elsewhen stuff is really good. I read it when it was online, and very good stuff. I'm glad they're bringing this out. I almost low-key wish they would just say, hey, yeah, the last like 35, 40 years of X-Men never happened. We're just going to hit the reset button or the deset button or whatever, and we're just gonna continue from where John Byrne, possibly Chris Claremont, wanted to take it. But very, very good stuff he did on his own time, and I guess they've been pestering him for years to publish it, but it's coming from Abrams Comic Arts and not Marvel proper. Again, a very weird decision because you would think this would be money in the bank. I guess if they don't put it in a blind bag or something. But the X-Men are a damaged brand. I mean, they really are. Marvel has fallen so far with this. I mean, at one point in time, the X-Men had arcade games, they had action figures, they had Saturday morning cartoon shows, and now they're a joke, right? But I totally intend to pick this up for sure. But yeah, the fact that they're outsourcing this too, and that would be guaranteed cash, I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. Not a good time. Not a good time to be working in comics, I don't think, unless you're doing your own stuff, because I think we're going to see a lot of shoes drop. We're seeing a lot of publishers hurting. Diamond definitely destroyed the ecosystem for a lot of indie publishers. And we're going to see more and more publishers, I think, just do direct to consumer, sell through Amazon or whatever, just like the plebs, because that's where everything's going, right? I don't know what's going to happen to Dark Horse either. We covered Dark Horse, and it's not looking too good over there either. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.